Hey, what's up, guys? It's Rico here, CEO of Sourcefine Asia, Coast to Main Channel podcast, and the host of the Sourcefine Asia YouTube channel, of course, back with another one out here in beautiful Zambales by the coast. We out of quarantine, baby. We ran away from Manila. This is 3 out of 5 life lessons I've learned from living in Asia.
Water, colors, falling down the page. I thought of something, but don't know how to say. Even though I travelled on the train, even if I'm standing all the way. I'm bored of summers, if you're there in the rain.
Dreaming, you won't believe it. Like when it feels new but they've old feelings. Run flows for the whole evening. If I kick ball, I'd score goals for the whole season. Let it run like watercolours. Walked down the road and I thought of something. Real talk, I ain't talking rubbish. I've been here for 24 summers. There's a lot to be happy for here. I ain't seen you in 3 or 4 years. Came to my show and it was more clear. What I knew then wasn't what I saw here. At the end of it all, you're more happy. They say that it's just a word, but you're family. That makes my mum pleased too. You don't need me as much.
Number 3, if you haven't seen the other ones, there's number 1, number 2, check out the previous video. But number 3 is be open-minded. So what I mean by that is, I think the mistake that a lot of expats make, or people that travel and live in other countries make, is they go to this country and they're expecting things to be like the way it was back home. That is a big mistake. Of course, you can find some amenities, some restaurants, all that stuff that is more familiar for you, but I think you have to embrace where you are. And what that means is be open-minded. My personal expression is I like to say I'll try anything 2 times. If I try it 2 times and I still don't like it, then I'm done. So most of the time this revolves around food. I notice that a lot of times with food, like, people get very picky about the type of food that they want to eat, and you know, you go to another country and people eat something that you're not familiar with, or they cook it differently. In Asian countries, a lot of times the shrimp is not deshelled, so you have to go through that process. You gotta be open-minded. You gotta try out the food. You gotta, give it a couple chances, and it might grow on you. Like, I mean, there are certain things that I eat now that I didn't eat before, namely duck tongue. It's super weird, but duck tongue, like, it's one of those things. When I was teaching English and my students gave me some spicy duck tongue and I tried it. First time I was kind of weirded out. Second time I was like, this actually tastes pretty good. And then I got hooked to it. So you got to be open-minded. It also helps you to ingratiate yourself into the country and the culture and make friends if you're willing to try different things. Point number 4 is act like an ambassador from your country. So what I mean by that is, when you go to countries that are outside of your space, especially, I guess this is more familiar for like Westerners, because we're so used to the diversity of people in the country. So like in Canada and the US, if you are brown, white, black, Asian, whatever, nobody's really going to ask you where you're from unless you have an accent, right? Because we're just accustomed to there being this multicultural, diverse community in the country. Whereas in Asia, in certain countries, if you look different from everybody else, there's going to be that question, like, where are you from? Or there might be certain questions about your culture, that there might be certain things that people say that might seem offensive or ignorant or whatever you want to call it. The way I look at it is, you can either choose to do one of 2 things. You can either be angry and be frustrated that somebody's asking you this question or they made this comment, or you can choose to educate them. So for me, I personally choose to educate people in those situations. Like me explaining to people that, yeah, I'm black, but there were black people in Canada, and people migrated from Africa to Canada, and there's also slavery and things like that. But I try to always explain to people like why something is the way it is, rather than just being, upset and being like, oh, why did you ask me that question? Like it doesn't make sense, right? And again, being open-minded, which is my previous point, certain questions in certain cultures are more acceptable than others. Like I noticed in China, somebody asking you how much money you make was not an uncommon question. That was fine for somebody to ask how much money do you make. Whereas I know, like in the States and Canada and in Europe, if you ask somebody how much money you make, it's pretty forward, So you got to be aware of those things. Point number 5, which in my opinion is probably the most important point, is patience. You got to be patient. I think when people move abroad or they live in different countries, you always have, not always, but most of the time you have a goal, right? Like when I moved to China, my goal was to start a company and to be able to live pretty much the lifestyle that I'm living now, right? Did I accomplish that in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years? No, it took me 5 years to get to a stage where I could travel, live in other countries, build myself out of the day-to-day operations of my company. So you got to be patient. And I think specifically when you're leaving your country and going to another place, not just from a business perspective, but even just from a life perspective, making friends, understanding the culture, understanding the food, understanding the language, understanding the demographics of the place, it takes patience. You gotta like be comfortable being uncomfortable for a minute. There's a great expression that I said, but I don't remember who was the original person that came up with that quote. But successful people are comfortable being uncomfortable. So the key point of that is patience. Like I just said, is you gotta be patient and allow yourself to grind, to build, and the longer you wait it out, the more successful you might be in the future. So yeah, patience is the most important thing. So the 5 points that I mentioned, the first one was pick the right location for you. Make sure that you're based off of your business, your life, your interests, you're in the right spot. Southeast Asia isn't for everybody. Could be South America, could be Africa, could be Europe, who knows. Create a home base. Don't get stuck into the whole travel 24/7 idea mentality. You got to build connections and create a home base. The third one is be open-minded. Try different foods. Try the culture. Try the local customs, even if it's weird. The fourth one is act like an ambassador of your country, which is think of yourself as representing your country. Teach people. Don't get angry because people don't have the knowledge or haven't learned about your customs and where you're from. Don't expect everybody to understand it, especially when you're not home. You're not home, so you've got to be the person to educate. That's what ambassadors do. They create better relations. So I look at it like that. Like if you met me and I taught you more about my country and I've given you a good representation of people from my country, that's a positive for me. And then the fifth one is patience, of course. Being patient, like I said, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Patience is key. It takes a long time to be successful. It takes a long time to achieve certain things. Don't expect just because you're a foreigner moving to a foreign country, everything is going to happen overnight. It takes time. But if you're willing to stick it out, I'm pretty sure you can be successful in whatever you want to do. Alright, so I'm out here. Zambales signing off. I see Wolfgang being bullied by some dogs. So I'm going to go make sure that he's alright. And I will see you guys next week.